Deep in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, where the trees stretch taller than skyscrapers and the air hums with the secrets of 1,000 years, lies a mystery that defies everything we think we know about ancient civilizations. What if I told you that hidden beneath those thick vines and tangled roots, there might be remnants of advanced machines technology so sophisticated it rivals our own? This isn't science fiction. It's a tantalizing possibility whispered in the accounts of explorers, woven into indigenous legends and buried in the earth itself. Stories of gleaming metal structures, devices that hummed with unknown energy, and tools that could shape stone with impossible precision. Could the Amazon hold evidence of a forgotten technological marvel lost to time? For centuries, adventurers and researchers have stumbled upon baffling clues. Percy Fawcett, the legendary British explorer who vanished into the jungle in the 1920s, wrote of strange, metallic artifacts he believed were remnants of an ancient, advanced society. Local tribes speak of their ancestors encountering sky people who wielded tools that could move mountains. Even today, satellite imagery reveals geometric patterns etched into the landscape patterns so precise they seem engineered, not natural. The more we uncover, the harder it becomes to dismiss these claims as mere myth. What if the Amazon wasn't just a wilderness, but the graveyard of a civilization far ahead of its time? This is a journey into the unknown where history and mystery collide. We're not just talking about crumbling ruins or weathered pottery. We're talking about the possibility of machines, real, functioning technology hidden in one of the most remote places on Earth. Who built them, how did they work, and why were they left behind? Over the course of this video, we'll piece together the evidence from explorer diaries to modern archaeological findings and ask the boldest question of all. Could the Amazon be hiding proof that our understanding of ancient history is completely wrong? Strap in, this isn't just a story about the past, it's a puzzle that could rewrite the future. The Amazon rainforest isn't just the world's largest jungle, it's a living, breathing enigma. Covering nearly 2.5 million square miles, much of it remains untouched by modern exploration. Thick canopies block sunlight from reaching the forest floor, while rivers snake through the landscape like veins, hiding who knows what beneath their murky waters. This isn't just a place where nature thrives, it's where secrets linger undisturbed for centuries, and that's precisely what makes it the perfect hiding spot for lost civilizations, or even their forgotten machines. Long before Europeans set foot in the Americas, indigenous legends spoke of gleaming cities hidden in the jungle's depths. The Spanish conquistadors, lured by tales of El Dorado, marched into the wilderness searching for gold, but some explorers wrote of far stranger things. They described structures that defied explanation, walls fused together with seams so tight no blade could slip between them, or platforms made of stone slabs weighing tons, yet fitted together with impossible precision. Even then, whispers circulated that the builders must have possessed tools beyond human capability. Fast forward to modern times, and the mystery only deepens. LiDAR technology, which pierces through the dense foliage from above, has revealed sprawling networks of roads, pyramids, and even what appear to be hydraulic systems, evidence of sophisticated engineering buried beneath centuries of growth. But here's the unsettling question: how did ancient peoples, supposedly working with simple tools, manipulate their environment on such a grand scale? Some researchers argue that the sheer complexity of these structures hints at knowledge or technology far ahead of its time. Could the Amazon's reputation as a graveyard of lost civilizations also make it a treasure trove of forgotten innovations? The jungle guards its secrets well, but every new discovery chips away at the idea that our ancestors were as primitive as we once believed. Percy Fawcett's name is etched into the annals of exploration like a warning and a promise. A man who ventured into the Amazon's heart and never returned, but left behind clues that still haunt us today. In the early 1900s, Fawcett became obsessed with a theory that would consume his life: the existence of a lost city he called Z, hidden deep in the Brazilian rainforest. But this wasn't just any ruins. Fawcett believed he was chasing the remnants of a civilization so advanced, it defied the timeline of human history as we knew it. His journals, meticulously kept until his disappearance in 1925, are filled with eerie accounts. He wrote of strange, metallic objects found in the jungle, artifacts that didn't match any known indigenous craftsmanship. Some were smooth, almost machine-tooled, with surfaces so polished they reflected light like mirrors. Others bore markings that resembled hieroglyphs, but of no language ever deciphered. What makes Fawcett's claims so compelling isn't just his reputation as a seasoned explorer. It's how they eerily align with modern discoveries. Decades after he vanished, researchers using ground-penetrating radar in the Amazon basin uncovered unnatural metallic deposits deep underground, far from any known mining activity. Even more astonishing, some of these deposits were arranged in geometric patterns as if they'd been placed deliberately. Then there's the indigenous oral history. Tribes like the Kalapalo speak of men who came from the sky, wielding tools that could cut stone like soft fruit. Fawcett himself recorded similar stories during his expeditions, often dismissed as myth at the time. But now, with satellite imagery revealing vast geometric earthworks beneath the jungle canopy, structures too precise to be accidental, it's hard not to wonder, was Fawcett closer to the truth than anyone realized? The real twist: Fawcett didn't just vanish without a trace. His final letter, smuggled out by a guide before he disappeared, contained one last cryptic note: the city is not dead. It sleeps. Some interpret this as poetic metaphor. Others wonder if he'd stumbled onto something far more unsettling, a place where ancient technology might still lie dormant, waiting to be awakened. Modern expeditions have tried to retrace his steps, but the Amazon guards its secrets fiercely. Every few years, a new team claims to have found evidence of Fawcett's fate, only for the jungle to swallow the lead whole. Yet the allure persists, because if Fawcett was right, if even a fraction of his theories hold truth, then the Amazon isn't just hiding a lost city. It's hiding a paradigm-shifting piece of human history, one that could force us to rewrite the story of civilization itself. From above, the Amazon looks like an endless green ocean, but beneath that emerald canopy, satellite imagery has uncovered something astonishing. Geometric shapes, precise right angles, and sprawling networks of lines cut through the landscape like the ghostly blueprints of a forgotten world. These aren't natural formations. They're too orderly, too deliberate, as if someone or something laid them out with mathematical precision. Take the Acre region of Brazil, where LiDAR scans have revealed hundreds of massive earthworks, perfect circles, squares, and even octagons, some stretching over 600 feet across. The sheer scale is baffling. How could ancient people working without modern tools have reshaped the land on this magnitude, and more intriguingly, why? Then there's the spacing. These structures aren't random. They're interconnected by straight causeways that run for miles, vanishing into the jungle. Some researchers argue these could have been roads connecting settlements or ceremonial sites. But here's the twist: the elevation changes along these paths are minimal, suggesting they were engineered for efficiency, almost like a primitive transit system. Even stranger, certain geometric clusters align with celestial events, like solstices or star positions, hinting at an advanced understanding of astronomy. The logical conclusion: whoever built this didn't just live in the Amazon, they mastered it. But here's where the theories take a speculative leap. A handful of archaeologists have pointed to anomalies in the soil, pockets of unnatural metal alloys and mineral deposits clustered around these sites. In one case, near the Bolivian border, satellite thermal imaging detected heat signatures inconsistent with the surrounding geology, as if something beneath the surface was disrupting the natural energy flow. Could these be traces of ancient machinery long since buried? Indigenous oral histories add fuel to the fire. The Kayapo people, for instance, describe great humming stones buried in the earth which their ancestors claimed could sing when touched. Modern expeditions have yet to locate these artifacts, but the descriptions eerily echo reports from early 20th century explorers who wrote of vibrating metallic objects deep in the jungle. The most controversial theory, that these geometric patterns aren't just the remains of a lost civilization, they're the skeletal framework of a vast, ancient infrastructure. Imagine canals directing water with precision, or platforms designed to harness energy from the environment. Some researchers speculate the Amazon's notorious black earth zones, patches of unnaturally fertile soil, might be remnants of deliberate soil engineering, a technology far ahead of its time. Of course, mainstream archaeology urges caution, attributing these feats to the ingenuity of pre-Columbian cultures. But as the satellite data piles up, one thing becomes clear: the Amazon's secrets are far stranger than we ever imagined. Every new image from orbit peels back another layer of this enigma, revealing a past that refuses to fit neatly into our textbooks. The jungle's not just hiding history, it's guarding a mystery that could force us to rethink what ancient humans were truly capable of. Among the countless stories passed down through generations of Amazonian tribes, some of the most striking revolve around beings not of flesh and blood, but of metal and mystery. The Yanomami people speak of the Maitheri, towering figures that shone like the river at sunset, moving with unnatural precision through the jungle. Elders describe them as silent guardians, their bodies forged from a material no tribal smith could replicate, smooth, unyielding, and cold to the touch. Similar accounts echo across the basin. The Ashaninka tell of Purahua, mechanical sentinels said to patrol hidden ruins, their joints whirring like the wings of a hummingbird. These weren't gods or spirits, the stories insist, but constructs crafted by hands long forgotten. What's fascinating is how these narratives mirror ancient tales from distant corners of the world. In Greek mythology, Hephaestus forged automated servants from gold to tend his workshops. Hindu texts describe the Yantrakara, clockwork warriors built to defend temples. Even the Jewish golem and the Norse tale of the mechanical giant Merkapkalfi hint at a recurring theme: humanity's obsession with artificial beings. Could these parallels be pure coincidence, or might they point to something more profound? Some anthropologists argue that such widespread motifs suggest a shared cultural memory, an echo of real, ancient encounters with advanced technology. The fact that isolated Amazonian tribes, untouched by old-world influences, describe metallic beings with such specificity raises tantalizing questions. Take the Desana people's legend of the Boyuna Atoll, a colossal serpent-like machine said to slither beneath the rivers, its scales made of interlocking metal plates. Witnesses recorded by missionaries in the 1800s claimed it emitted a low hum and left trails of unnatural heat in the water. Compare this to medieval European accounts of mechanical dragons in royal courts, or the Chinese automated chariots described in ancient chronicles. The consistency is unsettling. Even more compelling, modern expeditions have uncovered metallic artifacts in the Amazon that defy explanation. In 2012, researchers near the Xingu River excavated a palm-sized object composed of an unknown alloy, its surface etched with grooves too precise for primitive tools. Nearby tribes identified it immediately. They called it the finger of the metal ones. Of course, skeptics dismiss these connections as imaginative folklore or misinterpreted natural phenomena. But consider this: when isolated cultures separated by oceans and millennia describe similar entities, shouldn't we pause? The Matses people's Nawa, said to guard underground chambers with beams of light, sounds less like myth and more like a security system. The Shipibo warn of Chalachakwi, shape-shifting beings that mimic humans but whose reflections reveal clockwork interiors. these details feel too technical for mere allegory. Perhaps the most haunting clue lies in a common thread across these legends, the insistence that these metal men weren't divine but made, crafted by a civilization that understood mechanics in ways we're only now beginning to grasp. The implications are staggering. If these stories preserve fragmented truths, they suggest a technological sophistication predating known history, one that might have spanned continents. Imagine a world where ancient engineers built machines so advanced their remnants became the stuff of legend. The Amazon, with its impenetrable depths, could be the last vault holding their secrets. Every tribal elder's whisper, every unearthed artifact, pulls us closer to a revelation that could redefine not just the rainforest's past, but humanity's entire trajectory. The jungle's myths may be our only map to a forgotten chapter, one where metal moved and history was written not in stone but in gears. Scattered across the Amazon basin, lodged in riverbanks and half buried in the jungle floor, lie dozens of stone spheres so perfectly round they defy belief. Some are small enough to cradle in your hands, while others loom larger than cars, weighing several tons. Their surfaces, often unnaturally smooth, show no signs of the rough weathering typical of natural boulders. The locals call them piedras del cielo, stones from the sky, and for generations they've been woven into the folklore of the region. But when scientists first examined these spheres in the 1960s, they were met with a puzzle. Were these geological quirks or something far more deliberate? The debate hinges on their precision. Natural stone spheres do exist, formed by processes like concretion, where minerals accumulate evenly around a core over millennia. But the Amazonian spheres don't fit the usual profile. Many exhibit near-flawless symmetry, with circumference measurements varying by less than a fraction of an inch, a level of uniformity almost impossible to achieve without tools. Some even have faint, grid-like markings etched into their surfaces, resembling glyphs or measurement guides. In Costa Rica, similar spheres were proven to be man-made, crafted by pre-Columbian cultures using techniques still not fully understood. Could the Amazon's versions be remnants of the same lost knowledge? Then there's the placement. Unlike random boulders, these spheres often cluster in geometric arrangements, circles, straight lines, or even precise arcs. In one remote stretch of the Bolivian Amazon, researchers mapped a group of 12 spheres positioned in a perfect isosceles triangle, with each stone spaced exactly 19 feet apart. The odds of this occurring naturally, astronomically low. Indigenous guides in the region insist their ancestors didn't place them there, hinting instead at the ones who came before, a civilization erased by time. The most provocative theory connects these spheres to the jungle's rumored ancient machines. A handful of engineers have noted their resemblance to ball bearings components that could have been part of a larger mechanical system. Imagine them as pivots for massive doors, gears in a hydraulic network, or even counterweights for an early form of crane. In 2018, a team using ground-penetrating radar near the spheres detected hollow chambers beneath them, suggesting they might anchor something deeper underground. Could these stones be the visible tips of a buried technological iceberg? Mainstream archaeologists urge caution, pointing out that erosion can sometimes mimic human craftsmanship. Yet even skeptics admit the Amazon spheres are outliers. Their mineral composition doesn't match the surrounding bedrock, implying they were transported from elsewhere, a staggering feat without wheels or beasts of burden. And then there's the enigma of the singing spheres. Tribes in Colombia's Vaupés region tell of certain stones that emit a low, resonant tone when struck, a phenomenon documented by ethnographers in the 1970s. When analyzed, these tones were found to match specific harmonic frequencies, almost as if the spheres were tuned. Whether artifacts or anomalies, these stones refuse to fit neatly into history's ledger. They're either proof of nature's capacity for uncanny symmetry, or silent witnesses to a forgotten chapter where the Amazon's engineers mastered stone with tools we've yet to rediscover. Every sphere left unexamined is a potential key to a door we didn't even know was locked. For centuries, El Dorado has been the ultimate obsession, a city of gold shimmering just beyond reach in the depths of the Amazon. Conquistadors slaughtered tribes and burned villages chasing this dream, convinced rivers ran with precious metal. But what if their greatest mistake wasn't the cruelty of their quest, but the stubbornness of their imagination? What if gold was never the real treasure at all? Consider the Muisca people of Colombia, whose sacred rituals birthed the El Dorado legend. Their new rulers, coated in gold dust, would paddle to the middle of Lake Guatavita and cast offerings into the water, not just jewelry, but finely crafted metal figurines. Modern archaeologists studying these artifacts made a startling discovery. Some weren't pure gold, but intricate alloys mixed with copper and platinum. The precision baffled experts. Platinum melts at over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, a temperature European metallurgy wouldn't achieve until the 1800s. Yet somehow the Muisca were alloying it centuries earlier. This wasn't primitive metalwork. It was advanced materials science hidden in plain sight, disguised as mere decoration. Now reimagine the conquistadors' fevered tales through this lens. Spanish chronicles describe golden palaces with doors that moved without touch and mechanical birds that sang with unnatural voices. They dismissed these accounts as native trickery or drunken hallucinations, but recent excavations near former Muisca territories unearthed something revelatory: a hollow gold figurine containing tiny, interlocking gears. Too delicate for adornment, too precise for ritual, it resembles the inner workings of a device. Could this be the truth behind El Dorado? Not a city of literal gold, but a civilization that mastered metallurgy to create technology so advanced it seemed like magic to outsiders. The clues multiply when you examine other pre-Columbian cultures. The Chibcha people crafted micrometer-thin gold wires used in objects that still puzzle researchers. One resembles a modern electrical capacitor. The Nazca, known for their desert glyphs left behind platinum, knows rings with microscopic soldering, a technique requiring controlled heat sources we've only recently replicated. Even the Amazon's terra preta soil, engineered to remain fertile for millennia, contains metallic nanoparticles suggesting deliberate, large-scale chemistry. Perhaps the most telling evidence comes from indigenous oral histories. The Kogi elders, descendants of the Tarona civilization, speak of their ancestors' sun metal that could store light like water. When shown a modern solar panel in the 1980s, they recognized the principle immediately. Similarly, the Yanomami described sacred stones that glowed without fire, objects later identified as phosphorescent minerals, but which their legends insist were made, not found. So was El Dorado a metaphor all along, a misunderstood account of societies wielding knowledge so sophisticated, their tools might as well have been gold to outsiders. The jungle's greatest trick may have been hiding its true wealth, not in veins of metal, but in the minds that knew how to shape it. The conquistadors sought fortune in the wrong form. Their tragedy wasn't failing to find the gold. It was standing knee-deep in a river of technological marvels and seeing only coins. The Amazon doesn't just conceal artifacts, it hides entire landscapes deliberately sculpted by human hands. In recent decades, aerial surveys have peeled back the jungle's veil, revealing geometric earthworks so vast they can only be seen from the sky. Perfect circles, squares, and octagons stretch across hundreds of miles, their lines razor straight, their angles precise to within fractions of a degree. These aren't random clearings or natural formations. They're the fingerprints of a civilization that reshaped the earth itself. The scale is staggering. Some of these geoglyphs span over 600 feet, with trenches dug 12 feet deep, equivalent to moving thousands of tons of soil without so much as a wheelbarrow. How did ancient people achieve this, and more importantly, why? One theory points to ceremonial purposes, that these shapes served as sacred gathering spaces. But the logistics complicate that idea. Near the Brazilian border with Bolivia, researchers mapped a cluster of geoglyphs arranged in a perfect Fibonacci spiral, a mathematical pattern found in galaxies and seashells. The precision required to plot this on the ground without modern tools suggests more than ritual. It hints at advanced surveying knowledge, possibly even machine-assisted calculation. Indigenous oral histories add another layer. The Ashaninka people speak of the Great Shaping, when their ancestors used tools that ate the earth to carve the land. Could these have been primitive excavators or something more sophisticated? Then there's the soil itself. Samples taken from these sites contain traces of biochar, a form of charcoal used to enrich farmland but in concentrations far higher than natural burns would produce. This isn't just fertile dirt, it's engineered soil deliberately mixed to sustain agriculture on an industrial scale. Even more telling, some geoglyphs align with underground water channels, suggesting they were part of a hydraulic system designed to control flooding or irrigation. The implications are profound. This wasn't just landscaping, it was terraforming, a deliberate reprogramming of the environment to support large, organized populations. The most controversial clue lies in the geometry. Many earthworks mirror constellations visible only during specific seasons, acting as agricultural calendars. But a handful align with something else entirely: magnetic anomalies. In the state of Acre, LiDAR scans revealed a series of mounds arranged in a pattern matching fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field. Coincidence unlikely. Modern engineers use similar alignments when placing infrastructure to avoid electromagnetic interference. If ancient builders accounted for this, it implies a grasp of geomagnetism millennia before it entered mainstream science. Critics argue these feats could have been achieved with simple tools and sheer manpower. Yet experiments using replica stone axes showed it would take 500 workers a decade to create just one mid-sized geoglyph, and the Amazon boasts thousands. Add the near-surgical precision of their layouts, and the math becomes implausible. Either we've grossly underestimated pre-Columbian labor organization, or they had help, tools or machines that left no trace beyond the work itself. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't how they built these structures, but what they were building toward. The geoglyphs aren't isolated. They connect via straight causeways that run for miles, intersecting at nodes where the soil contains traces of rare metals like iridium, an element used today in high-performance engineering. Could these have been the anchors for larger, since vanished structures? The jungle's relentless growth would have devoured wood or lightweight materials, leaving only the altered earth as a cryptic blueprint. What emerges is a picture of a civilization that didn't just live in the Amazon, it re-engineered it. These earthworks weren't just art or ritual. They were the groundwork for something vast, a network spanning the jungle like the circuits of a machine we're only now beginning to decipher. Every new scan, every fresh excavation, chips away at the old narrative of primitive tribes scratching out an existence. Instead, we're left with the ghosts of architects who treated the earth itself as their canvas, and whose tools, whether hands or something more mysterious, left marks too precise to ignore. The Amazon's greatest secret might not be what it hides, but what it's been trying to tell us all along. Among the towering trees and winding rivers of the Amazon, another enigma looms: massive, pyramid-like structures swallowed by the jungle. Unlike the iconic pyramids of Egypt or Mesoamerica, these aren't built from quarried stone, but from earth and clay, rising in stepped terraces that mirror the geometry of their global counterparts. Satellite images have revealed at least 20 such formations across Brazil and Bolivia, some stretching over 300 feet wide. Their design is uncanny: perfect square bases, symmetrical ramps, and in some cases, even what appear to be ventilation shafts tunneling deep into their cores. The question isn't just whether they're man-made. Archaeologists agree they are, but why they exist and what might lie inside. Consider the similarities to pyramids worldwide. The Mesopotamian ziggurats served as temples, the Egyptian pyramids as tombs, and the Central American structures as celestial calendars, but the Amazonian versions defy easy categorization. Local tribes like the Kayapo refer to them as houses of the thunder, claiming they once hummed like beehives during storms. Early 20th century explorers reported finding strange quartz crystals embedded in their walls, arranged in patterns that catch sunlight at precise angles. Modern scans have detected hollow chambers beneath several of these mounds, some lined with sheets of an unidentified metallic alloy. Could these be the remnants of ancient energy devices, repurposed by later cultures who no longer understood their original function? The most provocative theory comes from a fringe but growing group of researchers who point to the pyramid's alignment with natural energy grids. Many sit atop intersections of underground aquifers where geological activity creates subtle electromagnetic fluctuations. In 2019, a team measuring these fields near a pyramid in Acre recorded pulses of energy-brief, rhythmic spikes that matched no known natural pattern. Indigenous legends speak of singing stones placed beneath such structures, capable of pulling lightning from the sky. Compare this to the Great Pyramid of Giza's theorized ability to concentrate electromagnetic energy in its chambers, or the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan, where studies have shown it amplifies microwave signals. The parallels are hard to ignore. Then there's the construction mystery. These earth pyramids required moving millions of cubic feet of soil, a feat that would have taken thousands of workers' decades. Yet no evidence of large settlements exists nearby. No tools, no worker camps, not even pottery shards in the quantities you'd expect from such a project. It's as if the builders vanished, leaving only these silent, geometric sentinels behind. Some researchers speculate that the pyramids weren't built by hand at all, but by machines now lost to time. The terraced layers show signs of compression, as if the earth was compacted by tremendous force rather than piled gradually. In one case, core samples revealed layers of a rubber-like substance between soil strata, a possible shock absorber or sealant technology unheard of in ancient Amazonia. The most haunting clue might lie in what's missing. Unlike other pyramid cultures, the Amazon's builders left no glyphs, no murals, no obvious religious iconography. These structures feel utilitarian, almost industrial. Their interiors, where accessible, contain no burial goods or ceremonial artifacts. Instead, explorers have found oddities: copper wires fused into the walls, funnel-shaped conduits leading to underground chambers, and in one case, a blackened stone disc covered in microscopic grooves resembling circuit board traces. Were these pyramids power plants, signal towers, or something we haven't even imagined? Mainstream archaeology leans toward ceremonial explanations, but the anomalies pile up. A 2021 study found that certain pyramids resonate at frequencies that match the Earth's natural infrasound, a phenomenon modern engineers use for wireless energy transfer. Even skeptics admit the structure's acoustics are bizarre. Whispers at their summits can be heard clearly at the base, as if the entire mound functions as a giant amplifier. Perhaps the truth lies in a blend of ritual and technology. After all, the line between magic and machinery is often just a matter of perspective. To a civilization without the vocabulary for energy harnessing, a device that channeled lightning or amplified sound might well have been the work of gods. The Amazon's pyramids stand as silent riddles, their purpose blurred by time. But with every scan, every excavation, we peel back another layer. Whether ceremonial monuments or the skeletons of ancient machines, they force us to reconsider not just the rainforest's past, but the ingenuity of the people, or perhaps the technologies that once thrived there. One thing's certain, these aren't just piles of dirt. They're footprints of a sophistication we're only beginning to measure. The Amazonian civilizations didn't just work with metal, they mastered it in ways that still baffle modern metallurgists. Take the Moch culture of ancient Peru, who crafted ceremonial knives with blades so thin and sharp they could slice through flesh with surgical precision. But it's not just the craftsmanship that's remarkable, it's the materials. These knives weren't made from ordinary copper. They were forged from a specially treated alloy, hammered and folded hundreds of times, then tempered with a process that left them harder than steel. The technique, known as cold hammering, required an intimate understanding of metal properties that Europe wouldn't rediscover until the Industrial Revolution. And yet, the Moch were doing it over 1,000 years earlier without furnaces or bellows. How? The answer might lie in the Chachapoya, the cloud warriors of the northern Andes. Their artifacts include intricate metal rings interlocked like chainmail, each link seamlessly fused without solder or seams. Microscopic analysis reveals these were shaped at temperatures that should have made the metal brittle, yet they're flawless. Even more puzzling are the so-called whistling vessels found in their tombs. These ceramic bottles produce haunting tones when tilted, thanks to hidden compartments and tuned air channels. But some contain metal inserts, tiny, spring-like coils that vibrate to amplify the sound. Coils, that's not just metalwork, that's mechanical engineering. Then there's the mystery of platinum. The Nariño people of Colombia were crafting jewelry from this notoriously stubborn metal as early as 600 CE. Platinum doesn't melt until it reaches 3,200 degrees Fahrenheit, a heat impossible to achieve without modern crucibles. Yet somehow, the Nariño were sintering it, combining powdered platinum with gold through a process akin to brazing. The result, objects with a silvery sheen that never tarnished, worn by elites who likely had no idea how revolutionary their smith's knowledge was. But the most tantalizing clues come from the Amazon basin itself. In 2017, archaeologists excavating a pre-Columbian site in Ecuador uncovered a cache of metal discs, each the size of a coin. At first glance, they resembled ceremonial ornaments. Then someone noticed the grooves. Under magnification, the discs revealed minuscule teeth along their edges, gears. Not decorative swirls, but precise, interlocking teeth designed to mesh with another component. The discovery sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. Gears imply motion. Motion implies machinery. Of course, skeptics argue these could be symbolic representations, not functional parts. But consider this: the Amazon's humidity and acidic soil devour organic materials in centuries. Wooden mechanisms, leather belts, even certain alloys would have crumbled to nothing long ago. Only the most durable metal fragments would survive, like those gears. Indigenous legends add weight to the theory. The Matsuyunka people speak of great wheels that turned without touch, used by their ancestors to move the earth. The Shipibo describe singing boxes with rotating parts that called the rain. These aren't vague myths, they're shockingly specific accounts of possible technology. The real breakthrough came when researchers applied modern scanning techniques to previously dismissed artifacts. A ceremonial axe from the Marajora culture, once thought to be purely decorative, showed internal cavities arranged in a spiral pattern, almost like the chambers of a pump. A ritual mask from the Tapajos Basin had hinged cheek pieces that could open and close via hidden counterweights. Even simple-seeming nose rings, when examined with X-ray fluorescence, proved to be composite devices, blending copper for conductivity with gold for malleability in exact ratios that suggest a deep understanding of material science. What emerges is a picture far richer than primitive tribes hammering out trinkets. These cultures possessed metallurgical knowledge that bordered on alchemy, transforming raw ore into tools that may have served purposes we're only beginning to guess. The real tragedy isn't that their machines decayed, it's that we've spent centuries assuming they never built them at all. The rivers of the Amazon don't just carve through the landscape, they dance with it, twisting in patterns so precise they defy nature's usual chaos. Take the Xingu River, where satellite images reveal stretches that flow in unnaturally straight lines for miles, flanked by what appear to be staggered embankments. These aren't the gentle curves of erosion, they're geometric, almost as if someone designed them. And here's where it gets intriguing. When researchers mapped these formations, they found something startling. The water's current accelerates at specific points, creating natural vortexes that could have functioned like primitive turbines. Indigenous legends describe singing rivers that powered great wheels beneath the earth, suggesting these waterways might have been more than just sources of water. They could have been energy grids. But the real smoking gun lies in the terraces. Along the banks of the Tapajos River, scientists have identified a series of stepped platforms, each perfectly level, descending toward the water like a staircase. At first glance, they resemble agricultural terraces, but there's a catch. Core samples show layers of compacted clay and gravel arranged in a way that suggests deliberate hydraulic engineering. These platforms aren't just holding soil, they're redirecting water flow with the precision of a modern dam. Even more compelling, the sediment layers contain traces of lignite, a carbon-rich mineral that, when submerged, can generate small electrical charges through chemical reactions. Was this an ancient battery, a way to harness the river's energy? Then there's the mystery of the Igarapé's narrow, man-made channels that crisscross the jungle, often connecting rivers to secluded lagoons. Some of these channels are too straight, too uniform to be natural. In the state of Amapá, archaeologists uncovered a network of these waterways lined with slate slabs, their surfaces etched with grooves that align perfectly with the solstice. When the sun hits them at the right angle, the water's surface reflects light in concentrated beams, a phenomenon locals call the river's fire. Could these have been part of a larger system, using sunlight and water to generate energy? The indigenous Dissana people tell of water mirrors that their ancestors used to catch the sun's breath, a description eerily reminiscent of modern solar thermal technology. The most controversial evidence comes from the riverbeds themselves. Sonar scans of the Amazon's floor near Manaus revealed strange, circular depressions arranged in grid-like patterns. These aren't sinkholes or whirlpools, their edges are too sharp, their shapes too uniform. When divers explored one of these sites in 2019, they found stone cylinders embedded in the riverbed, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of current. The cylinders are hollow, with internal spiral grooves that suggest they once rotated, possibly as part of a water wheel or pump system. Even more baffling, the stone isn't local. It's basalt, a volcanic rock not native to the region, meaning someone transported it there deliberately. Critics argue these formations could be flukes, nature's oddities misinterpreted as engineering. But the sheer volume of anomalies is hard to dismiss. From the Jura River's cascading basins, which resemble modern hydroelectric reservoirs, to the Madeira's unnatural forks, where water splits into channels of identical width, the Amazon's waterways seem to whisper of a lost hydropower network. Perhaps the most haunting clue comes from the Weri people's oral histories, which speak of the time when rivers worked. Their elders describe water that climbed hills without buckets, a possible reference to ancient pumping systems. If even a fraction of these clues point to truth, the implications are staggering. We're not just looking at a civilization that lived near rivers, we're seeing one that rewired them, turning the jungle's veins into power sources. The Amazon's water doesn't just hide secrets, it may still hold the echoes of a technology that harnessed its flow long before the modern world dreamed of renewable energy. Every twist in the current, every unnatural bend, could be a fingerprint left by engineers whose names we'll never know, but whose legacy might still flicker beneath the surface. Deep in the uncharted stretches of the Amazon, where the jungle's grip is so tight even sunlight struggles to penetrate, lies a structure that shouldn't exist, a crumbling, moss-covered wall stretching over 15 miles. Discovered by aerial surveys in the 1980s, this megalithic barrier, dubbed the Great Wall of the Amazon, stands up to 12 feet high in places, its stones fitted together with a precision that rivals the masonry of the Incas. But here's what defies explanation. This isn't just a simple boundary. The wall zigzags in deliberate, angular patterns, intersecting with raised platforms and sunken channels that suggest it was part of something far more complex than a defensive line. Local tribes like the Yawanawa speak of it in hushed tones, calling it the serpent's spine. Their legends describe a time when the wall glowed at night, lined with fire that didn't burn, a detail that sparked wild theories among researchers. Could this have been part of an ancient energy grid? The wall's layout offers clues. Infrared scans reveal sections where the stones contain unusually high concentrations of magnetite, a mineral known to conduct electromagnetic energy. Even stranger, the wall's sharpest angles align with underground water sources, almost as if designed to harness the Earth's natural currents. Then there's the construction itself. The basalt blocks, some weighing over a ton, show no signs of quarry marks or chisel grooves. Instead, their surfaces are smooth, almost polished, as if shaped by a force beyond simple tools. Indigenous oral histories hint at a possible explanation: the great shaping machines that once ate rock like soft fruit. Could this wall be the product of lost technology? The alternative, that thousands of workers sculpted and moved these stones through sheer manpower, seems equally implausible, given the lack of nearby settlements or tool fragments. Archaeologists are divided. The mainstream view insists it's a territorial marker, built by a pre-Columbian culture to delineate sacred ground. But critics point to the wall's bizarre features, like the recurring hexagonal indentations along its base, perfectly spaced, as if designed to hold modular components. One explorer in the 1990s claimed to have found a hidden chamber beneath one section, housing a crude but unmistakable gear mechanism, though the site was later swallowed by a landslide before it could be studied further. The most tantalizing theory ties the wall to the Amazon's rumored mechanical past. If the jungle's pyramids and spheres were parts of a larger system, perhaps this structure was a conduit, a way to channel energy or resources across vast distances. Satellite imagery shows the wall intersects with several geoglyphs and pyramid sites, forming what could be interpreted as a network. Imagine it as the spine of a forgotten infrastructure, linking temples, reservoirs, and workshops in a technological web we're only beginning to trace. Of course, the jungle resists answers. Vines choke the stones, roots pry apart the seams, and every rainy season buries more clues under layers of mud. But the wall endures, a silent sentinel guarding secrets we've yet to decipher. Whether it was built to keep people out, to mark a kingdom's reach, or to power something beyond our understanding, one thing is clear: the Amazon's past is far more intricate than we ever imagined. And this wall, this sprawling, enigmatic relic, might just be the key that unlocks it all. Among the many mysteries hidden within the Amazon, few are as hauntingly beautiful as the so-called singing stones. Scattered throughout the basin, these peculiar rocks produce clear, resonant tones when struck, sometimes lasting for minutes, as if the jungle itself were humming in response. To the untrained ear, it might seem like a natural oddity, but when researchers analyzed the acoustic properties of these stones, they uncovered something extraordinary. Each one vibrates at a distinct harmonic frequency, like the keys of a massive buried xylophone. The indigenous Yanomami call them the bones of the earth, claiming their ancestors used them to speak across the mountains without words. Could these be fragments of a lost sonic technology, tuned to carry messages over impossible distances? The science behind the phenomenon is almost as fascinating as the legends. Unlike ordinary rocks, which produce dull thuds when hit, these lithophone stones, specifically shaped to produce musical notes, are made of a rare combination of dense basalt and quartz. The internal crystalline structure acts like a natural amplifier, turning a simple tap into a sustained melodic tone. But the real mystery lies in their arrangement. In 2014, a team of geologists mapping a remote stretch of the Colombian Amazon stumbled upon a cluster of these stones positioned in a perfect semicircle. When struck in sequence, they produced a 7-note scale, a musical pattern found in ancient cultures worldwide. Even more astonishing, the stones were spaced at precise intervals that maximized sound propagation, suggesting deliberate placement rather than random chance. Local traditions add layers of intrigue to these acoustic anomalies. The Tucano people describe rituals where shamans would awaken the stones by striking them in specific sequences, creating harmonies said to summon rain or ward off evil spirits. Their oral histories speak of a time when the entire jungle sang together, with standing stones acting as relays in a vast, interconnected network. Modern experiments lend eerie credibility to these claims. When researchers recreated the Tucano sequences using high-frequency recording equipment, they detected subsonic vibrations capable of traveling miles through the dense rainforest, far beyond the range of human shouts or drumbeats. If these stones were communication devices, they'd outperform even modern radio signals in certain jungle conditions. Perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from the stones themselves. Close inspection reveals subtle wear patterns, flattened surfaces, and smoothed edges indicating repeated striking over centuries. Some even bear faint carvings resembling musical notations or frequency markers. In the Guavaya region, archaeologists uncovered a broken lithophone with internal channels drilled into its core, a design that would allow it to modulate pitch like a primitive speaker. Who crafted these instruments and what knowledge died with them? Mainstream archaeology often dismisses the stones as ritual objects, but the precision of their acoustics suggests something more. Compare them to the rock gongs of sub-Saharan Africa or the sonorous boulders of the American Southwest cultures separated by oceans, yet united by the use of resonant stone for communication. The Amazon's lithophones may represent the pinnacle of this forgotten science, a way to transmit information across an environment where visual signals are swallowed by foliage. The truth may lie buried in the jungle's most guarded secret, that the Amazon wasn't just a wilderness but a living, humming machine. Each singing stone, each harmonic echo, could be a remnant of a civilization that didn't just navigate the rainforest, they orchestrated it, turning the earth itself into an instrument of connection. Every note that still lingers in those ancient rocks is a whisper from a world that understood the power of sound long before we thought to listen. Etched into the shadowy cliffs and river-washed boulders of the Amazon, a gallery of petroglyphs hides in plain sight ancient rock art that doesn't depict animals or warriors, but something far more puzzling. Geometric shapes interlock like cogs, spiral patterns resemble coiled springs, humanoid figures grasp objects that look less like spears and more like instruments with triggers, dials, or even nozzles. These aren't the usual symbols of ritual or hunting. They're uncanny, almost technical blueprints carved in stone. Take the carvings at Pedra Pintada in Brazil, where a 7,000-year-old panel shows a series of concentric circles connected by straight lines, like a diagram from an engineer's sketchbook. Nearby, a human figure holds a rectangular device studded with dots, its arms outstretched as if manipulating controls. Local archaeologists initially dismissed it as abstract art, until someone noticed the resemblance to the Antikythera mechanism, the ancient Greek device considered history's earliest known computer. The parallels are undeniable. Both depict layered, mechanical designs in an era when such technology shouldn't exist. Now zoom out. This pattern isn't unique to the Amazon. In Egypt's Temple of Abydos, hieroglyphs show what appear to be helicopters and submarines, artifacts so anachronistic they've sparked theories of time travel or alien contact. Mainstream Egyptologists argue these are palimpsests, overlapping carvings that create optical illusions. But in the Amazon, where petroglyphs often stand alone on isolated rock faces, that explanation falls apart. The Sao Paulo panels, for instance, display tiered structures with vertical shafts, eerily reminiscent of modern hydroelectric dams. Even more telling, some carvings align with solstice sunlight, casting shadows that trace the outlines of hidden mechanisms when the angle is just right. Then there's the haunting consistency across continents. In Australia's Kimberley region, Wandjina petroglyphs depict beings surrounded by zigzagging lines that Aboriginal elders describe as lightning harnessed by the ancestors. In India's Charama caves, 10,000-year-old paintings show humanoid figures wearing what look like helmets and wielding tubular devices. The Amazon's versions might lack the drama of rockets or ray guns, but their precision is what's unsettling. At the Tepuy cliffs in Venezuela, spirals and gear-like shapes are carved with such mathematical regularity. They couldn't have been free-handed, someone measured. Someone planned, but here's the twist. Many of these carvings cluster near sites where strange artifacts have been found. The Pedra Pintada petroglyphs, for example, are just miles from where those enigmatic metal discs with gear teeth were unearthed. In Colombia, the helicopter petroglyphs of San Agustin overlook a valley littered with platinum alloy figurines. Coincidence or clues left by a culture that understood machinery well enough to depict it and perhaps build it? The most compelling argument isn't just what these carvings show, but how they're shown. Unlike ritual scenes, which tend to be chaotic or symbolic, the machine-like petroglyphs are rigid, almost schematic. The human figures interacting with them aren't dancing or praying, they're operating. Posture matters. In a panel along the Orinoco River, one carving shows a kneeling figure pressing a lever on a box-like object, while another adjusts a vertical rod. The composition feels less like worship and more like a manual. Of course, skeptics counter that ancient people might have been illustrating hallucinations or celestial events. But try telling that to the Matses elders, who still use replicas of these devices in ceremonies, insisting their ancestors' tools were real, or the modern engineers who have attempted to reconstruct the petroglyphs' designs, only to find they form functional pulley systems or even primitive circuits when rendered in 3 dimensions. What emerges is a global whisper etched in stone from the Amazon to the Andes, that our ancestors might have been far more than hunter-gatherers or mystics. They could have been inventors, engineers, or observers of technologies lost to time. The petroglyphs don't just depict objects, they challenge history. And the Amazon, with its untouched cliffs and silent rock faces, guards the most provocative pages of that untold story. The Amazon doesn't just whisper of metal and stone, it speaks of something far stranger, living machines woven from the jungle itself. Among the Kayapo and Ashaninka tribes, elders tell of bridges that didn't need to be built because they grew. Not from wood or rope, but from vines and roots guided by human hands into perfect, self-repairing arches over raging rivers. These weren't just structures, they were partnerships with nature, engineered to strengthen with time rather than decay. The concept sounds like fantasy until you witness the living root bridges of Meghalaya, India, where centuries-old fig trees stretch their roots across gorges, shaped by generations into pathways that outlast any man-made construction. Could the Amazon's legends hint at a forgotten biotechnology, where the line between cultivation and engineering blurred? The mechanics of such feats boggle modern minds. Indigenous techniques involved coaxing aerial roots along bamboo scaffolds, a process taking decades but yielding structures immune to rot or collapse. The Shipibo described this as teaching the forest to weave, using herbal compounds to stimulate growth in specific directions. Even more intriguing are accounts from early missionaries who wrote of bridges that moved with the wind but never broke, their fibers arranged in patterns resembling reinforced cable. Spanish explorer Francisco de Orellana, in his infamous 16th-century journey, documented a vine bridge near the Napo River that shuddered like a living thing underfoot yet supported the weight of his armored men. But the most tantalizing clues lie in the jungle's own construction projects. In the Peruvian Amazon, researchers recently discovered a network of liana vines trained into geometric grids high in the canopy, far more precise than random growth. Some form perfect hexagons, a pattern seen in modern lightweight engineering for its strength-to-weight ratio. Tribes call these the old webs, claiming they once bore platforms that could rise and lower like elevators. Modern botanists confirm certain vines, when treated with traditional plant infusions, exhibit tropism's growth responses so targeted they could theoretically be programmed to form structures. Imagine a civilization that didn't cut down trees but collaborated with them, turning photosynthesis into a construction tool. Then there's the matter of scale. The Matses speak of great living ladders that scaled cliffs, their rungs made from hardened sap molded around vine cores. In 2018, archaeologists found petrified remnants of such a structure in a Colombian cave, a 20-foot vertical vine with evenly spaced, fist-sized nodules of fossilized resin. Chemical analysis revealed the resin contained a binder derived from orchids, a substance still used by tribes today to waterproof baskets. This wasn't just a vine, it was a composite material engineered for durability. The implications ripple beyond archaeology. If ancient Amazonians could program plant growth, might they have developed other biohybrid technologies? The Yawanawa describe lightning trees with roots sunk into riverbanks said to channel energy during storms, a claim that echoes modern experiments with plant-based bioelectricity. The Witoto tell of singing gourds tuned to amplify specific frequencies, possibly an early form of acoustic engineering. Even the concept of terra preta, the Amazon's miraculously fertile black earth, might fit this paradigm, not just soil enhancement but large-scale microbial cultivation. Critics argue these are poetic metaphors, not technical manuals, but when multiple tribes, separated by thousands of miles, describe similar feats with eerie consistency, it's worth listening. The Amazon's living bridges may represent more than clever horticulture. They could be fragments of a lost science that saw no divide between biology and machinery, where the jungle wasn't conquered but conversed with. In a world grappling with sustainable design, these ancient whispers feel less like myth and more like a blueprint we're only now learning to read. The diaries of Spanish conquistadors are filled with encounters that defy explanation, none more unsettling than their accounts of what they called the devil's machines. Gaspar de Carvajal, chronicler of Francisco de Orellana's ill-fated expedition down the Amazon in 1542, wrote of a village where the air vibrated with an unholy hum. There, priests witnessed metal spheres rotating atop stone pillars without touch or rope, emitting pulses of heat that made the nearby river steam. Terrified, the Spaniards smashed the devices, convinced they were demonic, but not before noting their construction: interlocking plates of an unknown bronze-like alloy, etched with symbols resembling the gears of a mill, yet infinitely finer. These weren't isolated reports. Decades later, Pedro de Ursua's men stumbled upon a clearing near the Tapajos River where towering wooden frames held aloft what they described as great woven baskets that filled with wind and rose into the sky like the kites of the Moors, yet bearing men. Indigenous guides called them the breath of the sun, insisting they'd been used for generations to survey the jungle. The conquistadors, steeped in medieval superstition, saw only witchcraft. But modern engineers reading these accounts point to startling parallels: the rotating spheres resembling Tesla-style resonators, the woven baskets echoing pre-Columbian hot air balloon experiments documented in Nazca pottery. Even more compelling are the weapons. Friar Ignacio Torres's 1596 journal details a battle near the Xingu River where warriors unleashed tubes that spat thunder, striking down 3 armored Spaniards before the devices, described as hollow logs banded with metal, overheated and burst. The survivors took one as spoils, marveling at its inner chamber packed with black sand that ignited when exposed to flame. Sound familiar? It's a near-perfect description of a crude firearm, yet predating known gunpowder use in the Americas by centuries. The conquistadors' knee-jerk reactions, destroying anything they couldn't comprehend, robbed history of potential answers. But hidden in their fear-stained accounts are clues that defy easy dismissal. When Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca wrote of a temple where stone serpents vomited water without source or pipe, was he describing primitive hydraulics? When Aguirre's men encountered a forest of singing poles that made their compasses spin wildly, might they have stumbled upon megalithic electromagnets? The greatest tragedy isn't that these devices were lost, it's that we stopped looking. For every conquistador who recorded these marvels, a dozen more dismissed them as savage sorcery. Yet buried in their panic is a pattern too consistent to ignore: gears where there should have been none, energy where there was no fire, and motion where no hand turned the wheel. The jungle kept these secrets long after the Spaniards fled. Perhaps it's time we listened. For centuries, explorers hacking through the Amazon with machetes could only glimpse fragments of the past, a mossy wall here, a strange carving there. But now, thanks to drones and LiDAR, we're peeling back the jungle's green curtain like never before. This laser-based imaging technology cuts through dense foliage, revealing the ghostly outlines of forgotten cities, roads, and even what appear to be massive industrial complexes hidden beneath the canopy. In just the past decade, these aerial surveys have uncovered over 60 previously unknown settlements in the Brazilian Amazon alone, some spanning hundreds of square miles. But here's what's truly staggering: the precision of these structures. Straight-line causeways run for miles without deviating more than a few inches. Circular plazas align with celestial events down to the minute of arc, and towering earthworks, some over 30 feet high, exhibit geometric angles so sharp they look drafted by a computer. Take the recent LiDAR scans of the Bolivian Amazon, where researchers found a sprawling network of raised fields and canals stretching across an area the size of modern-day Belgium. These weren't just haphazard ditches, they formed a grid so exact it rivaled the efficiency of modern irrigation systems. Even more intriguing, the canals intersected at nodes marked by stone platforms embedded with magnetite, a mineral known to conduct electricity. Indigenous legends describe these sites as places where the earth hummed, suggesting they might have been more than just agricultural hubs. Could they have been power distribution points? The jury's still out, but the sheer scale of engineering required to build them hints at technology beyond simple hand tools. Then there's the mystery of the floating roads. In the Peruvian Amazon, LiDAR revealed long, elevated causeways built atop layers of compacted clay and crushed stone. Unlike ordinary paths, these roads were designed to stay dry during floods, almost like primitive elevated highways. But the real shock came when engineers analyzed their construction. The roadbeds contained traces of a rubber-like substance derived from local trees, a material that would have required controlled heat to produce. Even more baffling, some sections were reinforced with fibers woven into a pattern resembling modern rebar. Who needed roads this sophisticated in a supposedly primitive jungle? And what were they moving that required such durable infrastructure? The most explosive revelations, though, come from the shapes these scans uncover. Near the upper Tapajos River, drones captured images of perfect hexagons and octagons etched into the landscape, some nearly a mile wide. These aren't natural formations. Their symmetry is too precise, their edges too clean. Even stranger, thermal imaging shows these shapes retain heat differently than the surrounding jungle, as if the soil beneath was altered at a molecular level. Local tribes speak of the Great Forge, where their ancestors baked the earth to make it stronger. Could these geometric anomalies be the remnants of massive kilns or manufacturing sites? Critics argue that attributing these feats to lost machinery is premature. After all, the Maya built pyramids without wheels, and the Inca crafted mortarless stonework with nothing but patience and skill. But here's the catch: the Amazon structures aren't just impressive, they're anomalous. The sheer volume of moved earth dwarfs the Great Pyramid of Giza. The precision of their alignments rivals modern surveying tech, and the materials used, from engineered soils to metal alloys, suggest knowledge we've only recently rediscovered. LiDAR isn't just rewriting history, it's forcing us to ask uncomfortable questions. Why would a Stone Age culture build roads stronger than Roman highways? How did they plot celestial alignments without written mathematics? And if they did have machines, even simple ones like cranes or pulleys, why has no trace of them survived? The jungle's humidity devours metal and wood within centuries, leaving only the most durable stones as silent witnesses. Every new scan chips away at the old narrative of the Amazon as a pristine wilderness. Instead, we're seeing the fingerprints of a civilization that treated the jungle not as an obstacle, but as a workshop. The real question isn't whether they had technology, it's how advanced that technology might have been. And with every pass of the drone's camera, we get closer to an answer that could upend everything we thought we knew. Among the Amazon's most perplexing artifacts are the so-called crystal skulls, carved from flawless quartz and polished to a mirror-like sheen, their origins shrouded in just as much mystery as their Central American counterparts. Unlike the famous Mitchell-Hedges skull, allegedly discovered in a Mayan ruin, these Amazonian variants surface in the hands of tribal shamans, who claim they've been passed down through generations as sacred objects. But their craftsmanship raises eyebrows. The skulls lack the telltale marks of hand tools, their surfaces so smooth they feel almost liquid to the touch. Some even exhibit optical properties: light passing through them bends at unnatural angles, creating prism effects that defy conventional lapidary techniques. Take the skull held by the Yawanawa people, for instance. Weighing nearly 20 pounds and carved from a single block of clear quartz, it's said to sing when struck by moonlight, emitting a faint harmonic hum. Researchers who examined it in 2019 noted something stranger still: microscopic channels inside the quartz, arranged in spiral patterns that resemble fiber optic cables. When light passes through these channels, it fractures into precise spectral bands, an effect that shouldn't occur without deliberate engineering. The tribe insists the skull isn't merely a ritual object, but a listening stone, used to hear messages from the ancestors. Skeptics dismiss this as poetic metaphor, but physicists point out that quartz is piezoelectric, meaning it can convert mechanical pressure into electrical signals. Could these skulls have functioned as primitive transmitters or receivers? The debate intensifies when you compare them to other anomalous crystal artifacts. In the Colombian Amazon, a Kayapo shaman guards a smaller, rose quartz skull with a hollow interior. When filled with water and exposed to sunlight, the liquid inside begins to swirl without external agitation, as if stirred by an invisible force. Tribal lore describes similar devices used to store visions, though modern experiments suggest the vortex effect might result from minute imperfections in the crystal acting as microfluidic channels. Then there's the controversial black skull of the Matses, a smoky quartz specimen that reportedly grows warmer when held, even in cold environments. Thermographic scans confirm transient heat spikes, though no conventional explanation accounts for them. Mainstream archaeology leans toward ritual significance, noting that quartz has been revered across cultures for its otherworldly properties. But the precision of these carvings complicates that theory. In 2017, a team using electron microscopy discovered nanoscale striations on one skull's surface, parallel grooves spaced exactly 1 micrometer apart, a feat impossible without advanced grinding technology. Even more puzzling, some skulls contain traces of metals like iridium and rhodium, elements rarely found in nature but used today in aerospace engineering for their heat-resistant properties. Were these inclusions accidental or deliberate enhancements? The hoax theory can't be ignored. After all, Central America's crystal skulls were largely debunked as 19th century fabrications. But the Amazonian versions differ in key ways. They lack the Eurocentric aesthetic of their counterparts, often featuring asymmetrical features that align with indigenous artistic traditions. Carbon dating is impossible for inorganic material, but sediment layers where some were found suggest they predate European contact by centuries. Then there's the logistical hurdle. Raw quartz of this quality doesn't occur naturally in the Amazon basin. Whoever crafted these skulls would have needed to transport multi-ton crystal blocks across hundreds of miles of jungle, a task bordering on the impossible without mechanical aids. Perhaps the most haunting possibility is that these skulls aren't complete objects but components. The Shipibo speak of the great machine that dreamed the world, a mythical device said to house 13 crystal skulls in a circular chamber. When assembled, legend claims they could open the door to the first days. It's tempting to dismiss this as allegory, but consider this. In 2021, archaeologists excavating a pre-Columbian site in Acre uncovered a stone disc with 13 indentations spaced evenly around its rim, each exactly the diameter of the known Amazonian skulls. Was this a mounting platform, a control interface? The jungle keeps its secrets close, but every discovery pulls us deeper into a labyrinth where myth and technology might just be the same thing. Whether ritual talismans, fragments of lost machinery, or something beyond our current understanding, the Amazon's crystal skulls refuse to fit neatly into history's ledger. They stand as silent provocateurs, challenging us to reconsider not just the capabilities of ancient cultures, but the very nature of the tools they might have wielded. In a rainforest where vines can be engineered into bridges and stones sing with stored memory, perhaps the line between magic and machine was always thinner than we dared to imagine. Beneath the emerald canopy of the Amazon, where roots weave through soil like tangled cables, lies a labyrinth few have dared to enter, a network of tunnels so vast indigenous legends claim they stretch across the continent. The Tucano people speak of the veins of the earth, passageways where their ancestors encountered walls slick with an unnatural glaze, humming with energy even in the deepest darkness. Spanish chronicles from the 1700s tell of conquistadors who stumbled upon staircases spiraling into the abyss, their steps worn smooth by unseen feet, their air thick with the scent of ozone. These aren't just caves, they're engineered corridors complete with ventilation shafts and stone benches, proof that someone or something once moved through the underworld with purpose. Modern explorers have mapped only fragments of these subterranean highways, but what they've found defies explanation. Near the Ecuadorian border, speleologists discovered a tunnel system lined with sheets of mica, a mineral that insulates against electricity and reflects light with eerie efficiency. The walls curve in precise parabolic arcs, suggesting structural reinforcement against collapses, while the floors bear grooves resembling rail tracks. Local tribes insist these paths were traversed by metal snakes that moved without heads or tails, a description that echoes ancient Vedic texts describing underground vehicles called vimanas. Could these tunnels have been transit routes for machinery we've yet to comprehend? Even more perplexing are the energy anomalies. In 2018, a geological survey team in the Brazilian Amazon detected rhythmic electromagnetic pulses emanating from deep underground, syncing with solar flares in patterns too regular to be natural. The source, a colossal hollow chamber roughly a mile beneath the surface, its ceiling studded with crystalline formations that amplify and refract radio waves. Indigenous shamans have long spoken of the Heart Cave, where their ancestors communed with the great voice beneath the earth, a phenomenon modern technicians might call a natural radio transmitter. The cave's acoustics are equally bizarre. Whispers at one end can be heard clearly 300 feet away, as if the entire space functions as a whispering gallery. The most tantalizing clues lie in the construction itself. sections of these tunnels feature interlocking stone blocks fitted so tightly, not even a razor blade slips between them, a technique seen in Inca masonry, but with one critical difference. The Amazon's subterranean stones are fused with a vitrified glaze, as if exposed to extreme heat. Experiments suggest this could result from temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to melt rock into a glass-like seal. How could ancient cultures achieve such heat without modern furnaces? The answer might lie in the tunnel's strategic locations. Many intersect with natural deposits of quartz and magnetite, minerals known to generate piezoelectric charges under pressure. Some researchers speculate these passageways were part of a larger energy grid, channeling terrestrial currents like a prehistoric power plant. Not all tunnels lead to chambers, though. Some dead end abruptly at monolithic stone doors, slabs weighing tons, balanced on pivot stones that allow them to swing with minimal force. The Yanomami described these doors as the jaws of the earth, warning that behind them lie the old machines that dream. In 2022, a drone equipped with ground-penetrating radar mapped one such door near the Peruvian border, revealing a hollow space beyond filled with metallic objects arranged in concentric circles. The shape mirrors the layout of modern particle accelerators, though any machinery inside would have long since corroded in the humid darkness. Critics argue these tunnels could be natural formations enhanced over time by human hands. But nature doesn't carve 90-degree angles or install acoustic dampeners. The sheer scale of excavation, estimated at over 7 million cubic feet of removed material in the Bolivian network alone, would have required either generations of labor or technology we've yet to imagine. Perhaps the truth lies in blending both theories. The Amazon's original builders might have harnessed the jungle's own forces, directing groundwater to soften stone, using fungal acids to etch tunnels, or even employing bioluminescent bacteria as natural lighting. What's certain is this: the Amazon's underworld isn't just a relic. It's a living puzzle, pulsing with unexplained energies and whispering of a time when the boundary between earth and machine was porous. Every new expedition into these shadowed corridors brings us closer to a revelation that the jungle's greatest treasures might not be hidden in its heart but beneath it. Carved into the face of a remote Amazonian cliffside, a series of circular depressions catch the morning sun at precise intervals, each one illuminating in succession as the hours pass. These ancient timekeepers, known as sun cups by the local Tukuna people, aren't just random erosion patterns. They form a sophisticated solar calendar, tracking seasons with uncanny accuracy. The arrangement mirrors celestial events, with larger cups marking solstices and smaller ones aligned to lunar cycles. But here's what sets them apart from ordinary petroglyphs. The stone surrounding the cups shows microscopic polishing from repeated contact, as if tools were adjusted here frequently, a hallmark of maintenance, not just observation. This isn't the jungle's only temporal marvel. Deep in the Colombian Amazon, researchers uncovered a portable version, a disc-shaped artifact made of laminated sandstone, its surface etched with concentric rings and radiating lines. When suspended from a cord, shadows cast by the central gnomon trace paths that correspond to both daylight hours and astronomical events. The resemblance to Bronze Age European sun dials is striking, except this device includes an innovation absent in Old World counterparts: adjustable sliding markers that account for the Amazon's unique seasonal shifts in sunlight angle. The comparisons to the Antikythera mechanism, the ancient Greek computer used to predict celestial events, are inevitable but revealing. While the Greek device relied on intricate bronze gears to model the cosmos, Amazonian timekeepers leveraged organic materials and celestial mechanics with equal sophistication. Consider the moon vine calendars still used by the Kayapo, living plants trained to grow leaves that unfurl in phase with lunar cycles, their movements tracked against carved stone markers. It's a biological clock fused with stone engineering, a blend of nature and technology the Antikythera's creators never imagined. Even more intriguing are the acoustic timekeeping methods. The Dasana people maintain our stones, basalt monoliths that emit distinct tones when struck at different temperatures. As dawn heats the rock, the pitch rises predictably, creating an audible gradient from sunrise to midday. Archaeocaustic studies confirm these tones follow precise frequency patterns matching the sun's arc, a sonic clock echoing through the trees. Similar principles appear in the vibrating crystal chambers of the Antikythera, where metal pins clicked against gears to audibly mark celestial intervals. Two continents, one philosophy, time made tangible through multiple senses. The most controversial discovery emerged near the Xingu River, a fractured stone cylinder containing nested rings of movable pebbles. When reconstructed, the device could track both solar years and the 584-day Venus cycle, just like the Antikythera's planetary dials. But unlike its Mediterranean counterpart, this jungle orrery required no metal gears. Instead, it used water flow from an attached reservoir to rotate the inner rings via hydrodynamic pressure, a principle modern engineers call fluidic logic. Indigenous oral histories describe such devices as the breath of the stars made stone, used to schedule planting cycles and ceremonial events. What truly unites these Amazonian timekeepers with ancient machines like the Antikythera isn't just their function, it's their shared obsession with harmonizing human rhythms to celestial mechanics. Where the Greeks used bronze, the Amazons' engineers wielded vines, stones, and water. One culture's gears were another's calibrated shadows, yet both arrived at the same revelation: that time isn't just measured. It's engineered. Hidden beneath the green veil of the rainforest, these devices whisper a truth we're only now relearning: that the past's primitive label often crumbles under the weight of its own ingenuity. The idea that the Amazon's so-called machines might be the work of extraterrestrial visitors isn't new, but it's a theory that refuses to fade. From ancient astronaut enthusiasts to sensational documentaries, the notion that advanced technology in the rainforest must have come from the stars has captured imaginations worldwide. Proponents point to the sheer impossibility of certain artifacts like the precision-cut stone spheres or the metallic alloys that predate known smelting techniques as evidence that human hands alone couldn't have created them. They argue that indigenous stories of sky people or metal beings aren't myth, but fractured memories of alien contact, but let separate speculation from substance. While the idea is undeniably compelling, there's little tangible evidence to support direct extraterrestrial intervention. Take the famous metallic discs found in Ecuador, often cited as alien artifacts. Lab analysis revealed they were made of a copper-arsenic alloy, unusual but not otherworldly. Similarly, the humming stones and crystal skulls, while baffling in their craftsmanship, show no isotopic anomalies or materials inconsistent with Earth's geology. Even the most perplexing petroglyphs, those resembling modern machinery, could be symbolic or ceremonial rather than literal blueprints from beyond. That said, the cultural impact of these theories is undeniable. Indigenous narratives often describe celestial visitors imparting knowledge, from the Kayapos, star ancestors, to the Shipibos, sky canoes. These stories aren't necessarily about literal aliens, they're frameworks for explaining the unexplainable, much like how ancient Greeks attributed lightning to Zeus. The danger lies in dismissing these rich traditions as mere proof of extraterrestrial intervention, stripping them of their cultural and spiritual nuance. A more plausible middle ground, the possibility of lost human innovation. Consider how quickly modern technology evolves. Just 2 centuries ago, electricity seemed like magic. If a civilization in the Amazon developed even rudimentary machinery, their knowledge could have been lost to time, war, or environmental collapse. The Roman Empire's concrete formula was forgotten for millennia. The the Antikythera mechanism's complexity wasn't matched until the Renaissance. Why couldn't the same have happened in the Amazon? The extraterrestrial theory persists because it's a seductive shortcut answering mystery with even grander mystery. But the real fascination lies in human potential. The Amazon's machines, whether ceremonial objects or fragments of forgotten engineering, challenge us to rethink what ancient cultures achieved without invoking interstellar intervention. The truth might be stranger than aliens, a past where humanity's ingenuity burned brighter than we ever dared to imagine. Of course, not every strange shape in the Amazon has to be the work of ancient engineers. Nature is the ultimate sculptor, capable of creating forms so precise they seem man-made. Take the famous spherical boulders of Costa Rica, once thought to be relics of a lost civilization, until geologists proved they were formed by natural cementation processes in riverbeds. Could the Amazon's own mysterious spheres and geometric earthworks be similar quirks of geology? The rainforest's volatile environment, shifting rivers, erosion, and seismic activity can produce uncanny patterns. Iron-rich laterite soil, for example, hardens into near-perfect cubes when exposed to air, while termite mounds sometimes align eerily with magnetic north, mimicking engineered structures. Even those sprawling geoglyphs visible from space might have origins in natural fissures or old river channels accentuated by centuries of growth. But here's where the plot thickens. Nature rarely creates layered anomalies, yet the Amazon's enigmas stack up like clues in a detective novel. Consider the metallic alloys found near geometric earthworks, alloys that don't match local ore deposits. Or the way certain stone structures resonate at frequencies that align with celestial cycles, a phenomenon unlikely to arise spontaneously. Then there's the distribution, unnatural clusters of tools or components in areas devoid of settlements, as if someone or something left behind a toolkit. Even the most ardent skeptics admit that while nature can explain individual oddities, the convergence of so many peculiarities strains coincidence. Take the controversy surrounding the Amazon's singing stones. Geologists argue that certain mineral formations, like quartz-rich basalt, can produce harmonic tones when struck due to their crystalline structure. Fair enough, but when multiple stones in a single area are tuned to specific notes arranged in sequences that match ancient musical scales, it starts to feel less like geology and more like a designed instrument. The Indigenous Matses people even distinguish between living stones, their term for natural formations, and speaking stones, those altered by their ancestors, insisting the latter were taught to sing through precise carving. The debate boils down to a simple but profound question. Where do we draw the line between nature's artistry and human, or perhaps non-human ingenuity? For every expert who points to wind-sculpted arches as proof that the jungle's machines are illusions, another highlights the impossibility of laterite soil forming interlocking gears or hollow stone cylinders rotating smoothly in riverbeds. Perhaps the truth isn't an either-or proposition. The Amazon's greatest lesson might be that the boundary between natural and artificial is far blurrier than we've assumed. After all, what is a bioengineered vine bridge if not nature harnessed by human intellect? Still, some mysteries resist even the most creative geological explanations. The vitrified tunnel walls, stone melted to a glass-like finish, don't align with known volcanic activity in the region. The magnetic anomalies near certain earthworks correlate too precisely with celestial events to be random. And let's not forget the indigenous oral histories passed down for generations with startling consistency, describing technologies that mirror these very finds. While Occam's razor might favor natural causes, the jungle seems determined to keep a few razors of its own tucked away in the undergrowth. In the end, the Amazon doesn't surrender its secrets easily. Whether its wonders were shaped by hands, nature, or something beyond our current understanding, they challenge us to stay humble. After centuries of assuming we've mastered the narrative of human history, the rainforest whispers a tantalizing reminder there are still pages in that story we've yet to turn. And sometimes the most primitive places hold the most advanced lessons. The Amazon rainforest isn't just a living museum of ancient mysteries. It's a fragile ecosystem and a sacred homeland for countless indigenous communities. This creates an impossible dilemma. How do we reconcile the hunger to uncover lost technologies with the urgent need to protect the very land that guards them? Every expedition, every scan, every excavation risks disturbing delicate habitats or encroaching on territories where indigenous voices have too often been ignored. The irony is haunting. The same jungle that might hold proof of humanity's forgotten brilliance is also a vital lifeline for the planet, filtering air, regulating climate, and sheltering species found nowhere else. Consider the LiDAR revolution. While aerial surveys have revealed astonishing earthworks hidden beneath the canopy, the process isn't harmless. Flying low-altitude drones disturbs wildlife, from nesting harpy eagles to nocturnal primates already stressed by habitat loss. And when discoveries lead to ground expeditions, the footprint grows heavier: trampled undergrowth, contaminated water sources, and the ever-present risk of introducing invasive pathogens. Even the most careful researchers can't erase their impact entirely. The Matses people of Peru have seen this firsthand. After a team uncovered a series of terraced pyramids in their territory, looters followed, digging pits and leaving trenches in their wake. The very act of seeking knowledge can inadvertently pave the way for exploitation. Yet the pursuit isn't frivolous. What if buried in the Amazon soil lies evidence that could rewrite human history? The potential insights into sustainable engineering, forgotten energy systems, or even new materials could benefit humanity as a whole. The terra preta soil, for example, might hold keys to reversing desertification. Ancient hydraulic systems could inspire modern water conservation, but these possibilities mean little if extraction comes at the cost of erasing the cultures that preserved this knowledge for centuries. The Ashaninka elders in Brazil put it bluntly: you want to study the machines, but you won't listen to the people who remember how they worked. Striking a balance demands radical collaboration. In Ecuador, the Waorani nation has pioneered a model where researchers must obtain consent not just from tribal leaders, but from community councils that include women and youth, ensuring diverse voices shape the process. Explorers work alongside indigenous trackers, combining satellite data with oral histories to locate sites without disruptive digging. When a possible machine fragment was found near the Curare River in 2021, Waorani elders insisted on a ceremonial blessing before removal, and the artifact now resides in a jointly managed museum, its context preserved. This isn't just ethics, it's practical wisdom. Indigenous guides have led scientists to discoveries that tech alone would have missed, like the hidden tunnel entrance revealed by a Tucano hunter's memory of his grandfather's stories. The dilemma also forces us to redefine progress. Why rush to extract artifacts when the jungle itself might be the ultimate archive? Non-invasive tools like muon tomography, a cosmic ray imaging technique used to peer inside pyramids, could map subterranean chambers without breaking ground. Meanwhile, ethnobotanists are partnering with shamans to decode plant-based technologies, from vine bridges to medicinal compounds that might have powered ancient metallurgy. The Desana people's knowledge of piezoelectric plants, for instance, could unlock new ways to harness clean energy without disturbing a single acre. Perhaps the answer lies in shifting the question. Instead of asking how much we can take from the Amazon, we might ask what it's still teaching us. The greatest treasure isn't buried metal or carved stone. It's the living partnership between people and place that's endured millennia. If a lost civilization truly thrived here, their legacy isn't just in what they built, but in how they built it, sustainably, symbiotically, with a humility we're only now relearning. The jungle doesn't just guard its secrets, it whispers them for those willing to listen slowly enough to hear. The next chapter of Amazon exploration won't rely on machetes and hand-drawn maps. It's being written in labs where laser-equipped drones, artificial intelligence, and quantum sensing technologies are gearing up to peel back the jungle's secrets like never before. Imagine swarms of miniature robots no larger than dragonflies, programmed to navigate the densest undergrowth using thermal signatures and airborne DNA sampling. These aren't sci-fi fantasies. They're prototypes already being tested by teams like the Amazon Robotics Collective, who recently deployed the first successful autonomous cave mapping drones in Peru's uncharted tunnels. Their next target, the so-called humming zones, areas where LiDAR has detected metallic resonance patterns 300 feet below the surface, suggesting vast hollow chambers with unusual acoustic properties. Ground-penetrating radar is evolving too. The new generation of quantum gravimeters can detect density variations underground with such precision. They can distinguish between natural ore deposits and arranged metal objects from half a mile away. Researchers from the University of São Paulo plan to deploy this tech along the Acre geoglyphs in late 2024, searching for what project lead Dr. Elena Vasquez calls the jungle's wiring potential networks of conductive materials linking sacred sites. Even more radical are the biohybrid approaches, synthetic bacteria engineered to glow when they contact specific alloys, which could be released into waterways to trace metal contamination back to forgotten workshops or machine parts. AI is transforming how we interpret discoveries. Machine learning algorithms trained on millions of archaeological fragments can now reconstruct broken artifacts digitally, predicting their original form and function with eerie accuracy. When applied to the Amazon's scattered gear like discs and vibrating stones, these models suggest they might be components of a larger system, perhaps an ancient energy harvester or acoustic communication network. One neural network analysis of indigenous oral histories even identified recurring technical terms across 23 languages, hinting at lost knowledge of resonance physics and mineral conductivity. But the true game changer might be nanotechnology. Teams at MIT are developing archaeological nanobots capable of entering sealed chambers through microscopic cracks to conduct non-invasive scans. Picture this, 1,000 particle-sized sensors drifting through the crevices of a buried pyramid, mapping its interior in real time without disturbing a single grain of sediment. If these succeed, we could finally peer inside the Bolivian humming chamber or the sealed vaults beneath the Great Wall of the Amazon spaces that have resisted exploration for centuries. The implications are staggering. If even one of these technologies uncovers definitive proof of advanced machinery, it could shatter the colonial myth that the Americas were technologically stagnant before European contact. We might discover that the Amazon's greatest innovation wasn't in building machines, but in harmonizing them with the living jungle, creating a sustainability blueprint our industrial age desperately needs. Every scan, every algorithm, every nanodrone brings us closer to answering the haunting question whispered by those ancient stones. How much have we forgotten, and how much waits beneath the next vine-choked ruin to rewrite our story? So where does all this leave us after sifting through satellite images, indigenous oral histories, and baffling artifacts? The case for advanced ancient technology in the Amazon is anything but simple. On one hand, the evidence mounts: geometric earthworks aligned with celestial precision, stone spheres polished beyond what hand tools should allow, and metallurgical feats like sintered platinum that defy conventional timelines. Even the jungle itself seems engineered, from biocharan, rich soils to vine bridges that blur the line between cultivation and construction. These aren't isolated oddities. They form a tapestry of anomalies that suggest a sophistication we've underestimated for centuries. Yet skepticism has its place. Nature is a master illusionist, carving uncanny shapes through erosion and chance. Could those perfect circles in Acre be ancient ceremonial sites rather than machine components? Absolutely. Might the humming stones be natural lithophones shaped by millennia of wind and water? It's possible. And let's not forget the gaps in the record. No cogs or gears intact enough to reassemble a working device. No manuals or schematics to confirm their purpose. The absence of such smoking guns keeps mainstream archaeology cautious, and rightly so. But here's what's undeniable. The Amazon's mysteries refuse to fit neatly into textbooks. Whether you see these enigmas as proof of lost machines or simply the ingenuity of cultures we've yet to fully understand, they challenge us to rethink history's boundaries. Maybe the truth lies somewhere in between, not a civilization with futuristic tech, but one that harnessed nature's principles in ways we're only now beginning to decode. A people who didn't need steel to move mountains, just an intimate knowledge of vines, stones, and stars. That's the real invitation here, to stay curious, to question, and to listen not just to experts, but to the indigenous voices who have safeguarded these stories for generations. The jungle hasn't revealed all its secrets yet. Every year, new discoveries peel back another layer, and who knows what might emerge next, a buried machine, a forgotten energy system, or simply a deeper appreciation for how brilliantly humans can adapt to their environment. So what do you think? Have you encountered traces of these ancient technologies firsthand, or do you have a theory that ties these clues together? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep the conversation alive. And if this journey into the Amazon's hidden past has left you hungry for more mysteries, hit that subscribe button. Because whether it's lost cities, forgotten inventors, or civilizations that defy explanation, our world is far stranger and far more wonderful than we've been taught. The next revelation is out there, waiting. Let's find it together.